Hey everyone! So as you're about to see, we did a little something different for this episode. I brought in my friend Mark via Skype to do and we'll watch along on the movie Fargo. Unfortunately, Skype recording kind of sucks, and our videos are not great. So there's a lot of sound syncing issues, a lot of choppiness in the video. Skype has gone away, so for the next recording, we'll probably do something like Zoom, and hopefully that'll yield better results. But before you put in the comments that the video looks choppy, I know. Anyway, enjoy. Welcome back to the Essential Films Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the discussion of the greatest movies ever made, or the essential films. I'm Adolfo Acosta, and I am joined by my co-host who did not want the True Coat on his car, Mr. Mark Espinoza.
How's it going, everybody? How's it going, Adolfo?
Pretty good. So, as some of you may be able to tell, if you're listening to on the podcast, you're not going to be able to tell. But for anybody now watching us on YouTube, we are trying something a little different today. We are bringing in Mark's video and audio over Skype, and we're going to do a little watch along of the movie Fargo today. What we're here to talk about today is Fargo. So again, we're doing something new this episode. We are recording this for YouTube. With you should be seeing, hopefully, if I edited this correctly and recorded it correctly, you should be seeing myself in your top left screen and Mark in the top right screen, and then the movie will be playing in the middle. Obviously, it's YouTube, so we're gonna have to edit some stuff out so that we don't get a copyright strike, because we're not gonna be able to play the whole movie on here. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're getting more like a reaction watch along kind of thing as we talk about the movie while it's playing, but it's going to be edited out, edited into segments. But if you're listening to us on the podcast, you can it should be unedited, but I'm not making any promises. But basically, this is going to be a new experiment we're going to be doing. And we're going to see how it works out for us. So, any quick thoughts on Fargo before we get started? You just want to get right into it?
Well, I just want to address kind of the elephant in the room. I'm
Yes.
sure a lot of people are watching this and saying, "What's this goofball doing? Wearing winter jacket, earmuffs? We're going to call these earmuffs." Well, I'm in Fargo right now. I'm outside in Fargo, North Dakota. I don't know you can tell in the background. I got some deer behind me. We got some snow. We got some snowy trees. We got a nice log cabin over there. And I'm just kind of braving the elements here. Excited to talk about this movie.
I didn't know if you wanted me to bring it up. You're going to bring it up, so I can.
Well, I'm sure people were wondering what this dummy's doing, wearing a jacket, doing the show, so I figured I'd just address it.
All right. So if you're listening along, if you're watching along of the unedited version, we're going to start at the 0:000 mark. So we're going to press play now. Mark, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and then on 1, press play. All right. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right. So while we open up here, I'm just going to do a quick couple of credits here for Fargo. So Fargo was released in 1996, directed by Joel Coen and written by Joel and Ethan Coen. I wasn't sure if they both directed it or if they just both wrote it, but it looks like they both wrote it, and Joel was the one who actually did the directing duties, or at least he's the one who got credit for it. Starring Frances McDormand, William H. Macy, Steve Buscemi, Harvey Presnell, and Peter Stormare. And cinematography by the great Roger Deakins, and we're going to be talking about it as we watch the movie. It is a beautiful looking movie.
A lot of white in the background right now, which should give you an idea of the snowiness you're going to see in this. If those watching for the first time, it's a very snowy movie. Again, as you can tell from my background here, it does snow a lot here in Fargo.
This movie just looks so cold. It just looks cold and miserable, and my Dominican blood just hates the cold weather, even though I've lived in cold weather for literally almost all my life from like 5 years on. I lived in Pennsylvania, and then now I live in Chicago, and both of those places are always cold.
Chicago seems to get colder than it does here in the East Coast.
7 or 8 years ago, like, we had some rough winters. More like we would legit, no joke, have the same high temperature that Antarctica had that day. And of course we see the tan Sierra that keeps coming up throughout the whole movie. It's pretty much the It's not quite the MacGuffin, but it's like it's a very important piece of the movie.
Oh yeah. All right. There is Mr. William H. Macy playing Jerry Lundegaard here.
You know, they say you can't smell a movie, but I can smell this barf right now. I can smell it. It's permeable. Now, when was the first time you ever watched Fargo?
Cannot pinpoint exactly the year. I don't remember what year it was, but this is one of those movies that I watched growing up. I'm going to say I was probably at least like 10, 11, 12 years old that my uncle put on for me. Remember, I've talked about this either on Forced Perspective or here on Essential Films. My uncle was the one that introduced me to a lot of these classic movies: Casino, Goodfellas, The Godfather, even some comedies, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, all the Jim Carrey classics. And Fargo was one of the ones that he put on for me on a Friday night. We ordered pizza.
How old were you?
Stayed in. I was probably like 10 or 11 watching this.
I don't know if I'd let my daughter's almost 10. I don't know if I'd let her watch Fargo yet.
Yeah, well, my mother never found out. So
I think the first time I saw Fargo, because it won some Academy Awards so since it came out in 1996, so in 97 it would have won like a couple Academy Awards. So I remember hearing a lot about it and stuff, and I think I rented it when it came out on video after the Oscars. If it was, I don't know when the movie was released and when it went out on video, but after the Oscars aired, I remember hearing about it, and then next opportunity I had to like rent it. I remember renting it, and so I was probably like 16ish. And from what I can remember, this is probably the second movie I have ever seen Steve Buscemi in at the time, because first one was probably Reservoir Dogs. So when I see Steve Buscemi pop up here, I'm like, oh hey, it's that guy. I probably didn't even know his name at the time. I was just like, hey, it's that guy.
The funny looking guy.
Yeah, the funny looking guy. And then of course they both him and Stormare pop up in the cinematic classic that is Armageddon.
Criterion Collection film.
Criterion Collection. Hey, Fargo doesn't have a Criterion release, does it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Armageddon
So
does.
that tells you something. Yes, it does.
Michael Bay has something over the Coen Brothers.
Armageddon and The Rock. The Rock's a great movie.
The Rock is a great movie. So I love this scene here because these two guys are basically questioning his whole plan. Because it's a stupid plan.
It's stupid.
And the best thing about this, what this movie is, examination of greed, and that is a lot of Coen Brothers movies. They greed is a lot of one of their major themes. You can see it in things like No Country for Old Men, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Blood Simple. Greed is a motivating factor in a lot of these movies, and especially here in Fargo. Jerry's part and greed on Carl's part later in the movie, and even greed with Walt's part, not wanting to give up the money for his daughter. You know what I mean? So greed is a whole thing in their movies. But one thing that you can also say is that in this specific case, Jerry is motivated by greed, but he's also profoundly stupid. Everything he does in this movie, you just think, no, what are you doing? This is dumb.
I think that's kind of the nuance of William H. Macy's performance here. He's obviously just a really dumb guy with a really dumb plan. As you will see throughout this movie, he is pretty much the cause of all of the tragedy that starts happening to people as this movie progresses.
His stupidity, this is for sure a black comedy, it's because it's funny as hell, but it's also like a dark thriller, right? A dark drama, right? At the same time, because it is funny throughout the whole movie, but at the end of the day, his son loses his grandfather, loses his mother, and his father gets arrested all in the same day. That kid's traumatized for life. And all because Jerry is a moron.
At the same time, though, the way that William H. Macy portrays this character, despite him being this completely inept, incompetent guy, part of me still feels bad for him. It's just, I don't know if it's just how pathetic he plays him, that just part of me is like, you know what, this guy's see, I'm about to curse right now. This guy's an idiot. This guy caused so much damage with his stupid plan. But it's like, he just kind of like that aw shucks kind of performance where part of me still kind of feels bad for him. Let me know if I'm being unreasonable, but that's just how I feel, which it's a testament to the performance as well.
Remember in Psycho, whenever after Norman, spoilers for Psycho, after Norman Bates kills Janet Leigh, he stuffs her into the trunk of the car and like tries to push her into like that swamp or whatever, and then for a second like it stops, and then like you think it's gonna like not sink, and then it finally does sink, and then, but like you see that kind of look of like uh-oh on Norman's face, and you kind of in that moment sympathize with him, like because even though like no, he just murdered someone. He's an awful person, but because you can imagine yourself kind of being in that scenario, you can kind of sympathize with him a little bit. I can see that with Jerry, and again that is because William H. Macy is so freaking brilliant in the role. But yeah, at the end of the day, whenever everything goes down, it's just like, you know what, dude, you got off easy. Like, you're so stupid, and you screwed everything up so bad.
I mean, the worst that happens to him is he goes to jail at the end. Spoilers, everybody. What happens to everybody else that his stupid plan led to? Well, what I won't say anything for those who haven't watched it.
I mean, if they're watching this, like they should have watched the movie first.
That's true.
This is my favorite part.
It's like, okay, Jerry knows what he's doing, but now it kind of feels like, okay, this is an act, so that people feel bad for him. Straight up lied to that guy about how much he would have to pay for the car, to the point where even the guy dropped the F-bomb on him, and it was hard for that guy to drop an F-bomb just by the way he said it. And then you have Jerry looking there like, oh well, he's looking all sad like he's the victim here.
Real quick, I want to go back to that in a second, but this one scene with the prostitutes here, like in the same room, it's a little much.
Yeah, never.
All right, but yeah, back to that one scene. What I like about that scene is the whole movie is like kind of predicated on this. Have you ever heard the term Minnesota nice?
Yes.
Yeah, like where everyone seems just like overly polite, right? That was what made that scene so great because everyone's always so overly polite. There's rarely any in that kind of culture, right? There's not much confrontation. So whenever this man who's now getting screwed out of $500, you can tell he's not comfortable confronting Jerry, and Jerry is not comfortable being confronted because he's trying to like be very, respectful, even though he's trying to screw him at the same time. When he drops the F-bomb, it's like it like hurts him to do it because it's so improper and so not polite, and I think it perfectly encapsulates the environment of this movie.
That whole culture, you're right.
So like here's another reason why Jerry's stupid, right? So he has this plan here to get his wife kidnapped and then ransom her, right? But he at the same time is also trying to do this deal with his father-in-law, which if it were to work like he thought it was going to work, he never would have had to do the ransom.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe he thought that the plan with his father-in-law already wasn't going to work, which is why he went to Shep and tried to do this stupid plan. It might work with his father-in-law, whatever the proposal for the land or whatever that he's planned to do. And it's like now he's trying to call it off. But
yeah, but
it's not so easy.
Why didn't you just wait for an answer? Like, you just went ahead with this other plan.
Yep.
He's talking to him about like how he can't get a hold of the Carl and Gare. Is it Gare? Is that how you say it, Gare? Peter Stormare. He's saying how he can't get a hold of them, and you didn't get their contact information. You didn't get a way to I know, I get they're on the road. I understand that, but he should have had like check-ins, like ways to contact them, like something.
Yeah. And yes, this is 1996 where cell phones weren't prevalent, but still, like there's got to be some way for them to check in on each other. Actually, this takes place in '87. This came out in '96, but this is actually 1987. So cell phones were practically non-existent. I'm sure there were a couple out there. But
and by the way, despite what the we didn't cover this. Despite what the opening says, it is not a true story.
Correct.
The Coen Brothers took like some elements of something they heard about a man murdering his wife for money, but like almost none of the details are accurate. Peter Stormare is just freaking creepy in this movie.
He really is. It's such a very subtle performance too.
Like they're both scumbags. Like Carl is a scumbag. Peter Stormare is just like unnerving.
Steve Buscemi is very outwardly scummy. Peter Stormare, you can't really tell just how unhinged and psychotic he is. He's just being just a very quiet guy who kind of is just there to do a job. You don't really know his intentions or kind of person, I guess we'll say that he is, until we get to a little later with when they get pulled over, and that's when you really start to see just how psychotic this guy is.
He's got so many other things going on. So he clearly scammed this other company, like, to get money to get more cars that he never got. Some of the money he wants to get from the $1 million that he's like trying to con out of his father-in-law is to pay off that. But like, what else is he like? Is this like? I feel like he's probably lost a lot of money, more than just this.
My question is, they don't ever say like why he's so desperate for this money. It can't be just the greed of it, right? It has to be maybe something happened.
Well, like,
maybe he got into it with loan sharks, or
well, like, he definitely owes money to whoever these people are. But it's like he wants to get like $1 million. Well, minus the 80,000 he's supposed to give to the two guys. He's supposed to get $1 million. That's what he's banking on. And then on the other land deal, he was thinking maybe he'd get like 700,000 for that. This thing here is like this, whatever money he owes for these people is not as much as like $1 million. So what is the rest of the money for?
Like, I always interpret it as he got into some sort of trouble where he's desperate for money. It's not just the greed thing, but at the same time, like
gambling.
Greed is kind of the gambling or something. But like, in the end, it really does come down to greed.
It has kind of like some dark slapstick here, but this is one of those movies. Like, I remember when I first saw it, I didn't know how to feel about it because I enjoyed the story, and I laughed at a lot of the parts that were funny, but I also was like really disturbed by the end. So it was like a weird mixture of feelings. And one of the things is specifically with the wife, because the wife has done nothing wrong. The wife seems like a good wife and a good mother. Doesn't seem like she nags too much. You know what I mean? Like, she seems like a lovely person, and she deserves none of this that happens to her.
She's just caught in the middle of this stupid plan.
Like, you could kind of say with the grandfather or with the father-in-law, he's kind of cranky. Like, even though he doesn't really do anything wrong, he technically doesn't do anything wrong. He's kind of cranky. You could see, like, well, whatever. But like, this woman does nothing wrong. As funny as the movie is, you still feel like it's such a tragedy for her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you took the word. I don't know. It's the tragedy of it all, and it's
this
not gonna
actress,
just be her. It's gonna be other people too involved in this, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, and this actress, Kristen Rudrud, she's really, like, this is a really good, like, scared performance.
Yeah, it's really good performance here. This whole scene is very good. Just the between her acting scared and panicky, for obvious reasons, them being kind of bumbling idiots trying to get her. And I
mean, look, they're leaving their fingerprints like literally all over the place.
Yeah, like,
oh, and he notices her.
He noticed, yep.
Like, see, here's like the kind of like the dark slapstick I was talking about, right?
Yeah, she's running away, but then she falls down the stairs in kind of that like slapsticky way.
So basically, from this point forward, anytime you see Jean Lundegaard, it is not the actress that was playing her earlier. It is a stand-in. Because they didn't need, because she's covered up the rest of the movie. He was thinking about the 750,000, right? So 10% of that, which like with the finder's fee, like would have been 75,000, right? So 75,000. You can't solve your problems with $75,000. What did you do? What did you do, man? That is $75,000 is not going to cover it. This scene, look, Jerry's an idiot, and I hate his guts. But I can sympathize with this. This is the worst thing. This is the worst.
He looks so sad and pathetic doing it too.
But like, this is I hate winter because of that. And this is a small detail, but I love how it's like a red ice scraper, and it's like just surrounded by all this white. It just looks very like well-composed shot. I was reading some trivia on this that even though they filmed in like these places where they would supposedly have all the snow, apparently it was like one of the warmest winters on record, and there were a lot of shots where they had to fake the snow.
Or I think they had to shoot somewhere northern Minneapolis or something.
For some shots, yeah, but for other shots they had to fake the snow. Like the parking lot, garage or airport parking lot where it has like the snow covered and stuff. That apparently that was all fake, and if you look in the background, you'll see like the rest of the area it doesn't have snow on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, are you starting to feel guilty now that what you've done to your poor wife?
That's what we're supposed to think. But then this scene kind of takes away that sympathy that we would give him normally.
Yeah, that's right. Because
where here you think he's already calling his father-in-law, but he's just practicing how he's going to call his father-in-law. Like, that's What a scumbag, dude.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. This freaking thing.
Apparently that was built just for the movie, and it's been torn down.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It got torn down like in 2003, I think it was torn down. But yeah, this was built specifically for the movie.
So, you know what's just kind of interesting about this? We're how far into this movie, and we still haven't actually met the hero of the film yet?
Oh, yeah? Well, we'll see. We'll be hearing a lot. Oh, by the way, I was very curious about this. I looked up how many times the word "yeah" is said in this movie. You want to take a guess?
200.
You're close. Slightly lower.
190.
Higher.
95? 195?
Higher.
198?
Higher.
199?
199 times.
Wow.
They even broke it down to, they say the word "yeah," just regular "yeah," 18 times, and "yah" 181 times. Which you haven't really heard it much here yet in this portion of the film, but once Margie comes into it, you're going to be hearing it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another stupid idiot in this movie is Carl here, and his pathetic bribe attempt, and the fact that he didn't think to put the tags on the car so that he wouldn't get pulled over. He's an idiot. You know what I just thought of? Armageddon isn't the third Steve Buscemi movie I would have seen. So I would have definitely seen Reservoir Dogs, then this. You know what the third Steve Buscemi movie would have been? It would have been Con Air.
Oh, I forgot about.
He plays the the serial killer dude on the plane.
Yes, that's another good one. I haven't watched it in a while.
Put the bunny back in the box.
In fact, when I hear "Sweet Home Alabama" now, I just think of that movie now. That's how iconic it was at the time. Just hearing "Sweet Home Alabama," a very old song, by the way.
This
I think
bribery attempt.
I think of a movie from 1997. Yeah, Smooth. Want to be in compliance. That goofy smile too. Oh, that's not good. Like, who knew this quiet guy had that in him? That's when you start seeing the psychotic tendencies of this guy right here.
And you can tell Buscemi is not used to this kind of violence. The blood splatter effect, like, it's a very bright red. Like, it's a very I love how red that blood is. God, it just looks so cold.
It's very cold out here, Adolfo. I can attest to that.
Now, have you ever watched the TV series?
I started watching. I am going to go back to watch season 1 because apparently season 1. Well, I'll tell you later about, because we're going to get to it in this movie. But I actually did start to watch. Though I think it was the most recent one, the one with Juno Temple and John Hamm. I forget what season they're right now, but I think that's the most recent one. I haven't finished it. I think I watched like the first 3 episodes, and then I meant to go back to it, and then I just never went back.
Oh, this poor guy right here.
Wrong place, wrong time. This is literally the definition of that.
And now we just saw how crazy he is, and now you know this is not going to end well for those poor people. But that shot though of Buscemi holding the dead body while the car drives away, it's just a beautiful shot. Roger Deakins. Just
amazing cinematography throughout this whole movie. There's a great shot later that I'm gonna point out to everybody that I really, really dug.
There's again the red against the stark
There's
red.
a red hue.
Yeah. I think these Coen Brothers might know what they're doing.
Yeah. Seems like they got a little bit of talent there.
I think they know.
Don't you think?
And of course, the dude's coat is red. Bit of funny trivia. Apparently, this person who's playing the guy running away, the victim, is not an actor. He is the storyboard editor or something for the movie. And if you look in the credits, he doesn't give himself acting credit, but instead you see the print symbol, the duck paintings.
The mouth.
I
think that's a goose there.
Before
that's a goose.
Before I started prepping for this movie, I hadn't watched Fargo in a long time. When I started prepping for the movie, the duck paintings came out, and I was like, I forgot that this is a whole side story in this movie.
I think there's a point to which I'll address that at the end of the movie, because it does seem kind of out of place and weird to include all this, but I think there is an underlying point to it.
This is how we meet Marge. We meet her in bed at home with her husband, cozy, warm,
right,
seemingly tranquil, right? And we'll see at the end of the movie, kind of bookends the same way. And I remind me to talk about it at the end of the movie. What I think that means.
Might be the same thing I picked up, but I'll be curious to hear your take on it. Yeah.
I love how wholesome this whole opening introduction to her is.
Yes, I love it. Which seems very mundane, but that's part of the charm, you know. This is just a normal couple, normal married couple.
And it's interesting. I love the transition because we don't really know why they called her at first in our introduction to her. And when she gets up out of bed, the camera specifically focuses on her belly to be like, oh, hey, by the way, she's pregnant. And then the next shot is her in a cop uniform. So you're like, wait, this is a pregnant cop? Like, this is what she's going to do? Cold weather. Look at that shot where it just disappears into the white.
It's into the white void. That's right.
It's impossible to believe that it took Roger Deakins so long to win an Oscar. And it was was it for Blade Runner that he won for? Blade Runner 2049?
I believe it was Blade Runner.
Okay. Did he do the original Blade Runner?
That I don't remember. I'd have to look into that. He might have.
But
I honestly thought he won the Oscar for this, but he didn't. I actually didn't look up who won that year, but I thought he won this.
I think that was the year The English Patient swept, so it might have been English Patient.
Oh, that's another one, dude.
I like The English Patient, actually. I do. I think it's a good movie. I get it. It's funny because of the Seinfeld joke, right? But I do think it's a good movie.
Right.
I love how we were introduced to her here, right? She has this kind of wholesome home life. Then she's out here now, and she's like this pregnant lady with these like big ass mittens. She's like, but she's like, as she's talking, you can see her doing her like detective work, and she's really good at it.
No, I love the scene coming up later when they're in the car, and she kind of chastises, I don't know what his name is, but the other cop about his detective skills.
Yeah.
It's so adorable. I love it.
I remember this movie after she won the Oscar. It's like whenever Frances McDormand became like a name,
right?
And she absolutely deserves it for this movie. But yeah, I mean, Marge Gunderson, like. I know that this is not the Coen Brothers deal to do sequels, but like I would totally be in for like a series of Marge Gunderson movies
I'd be down for that.
where she where she's like Hercule Poirot or Sherlock Holmes or something, where she, like or what's the Benoit Blanc. Or is that his name?
Benoit
Blanc. Right. Just like a series of movies of her like just solving these different mysteries. Well, this is the line I think you're talking about.
Yeah, this whole scene right here.
I agree with you 100% on your police work there, Lou.
Sure, I agree with you 100% on your detective work.
I think that
police work.
probably had dealer plates.
It's a good line. And she's kind of like reprimanding him, but she's like, says in like the nicest way possible.
Yes.
Advise us on this. I'm saying call a professional.
No cops.
A professional? What kind of professional does this?
This is my deal, Wade.
Hostage negotiation. I don't know.
This is just another kind of example also of how much his father-in-law just does not respect him, like even a little bit. Like he just thinks he's such a dweeb. No, wait, Wade. I like how you can tell Jerry isn't acting here. Like you can tell Jerry legitimately didn't even think about how this would affect his son.
I agree. It's almost like something just hit him. As soon as he mentioned his son, he just hit him like, oh crap, my son.
Like he didn't even think about that when he was planning this whole stupid idea. Which I cannot stress how stupid this idea is. He never even once thought to think about how his son might feel. Like first of all, he didn't think about how it might traumatize his wife if she were, thinking she was going to live through it. How it would traumatize his wife. He didn't even think about how it would affect his son.
Father of the year there, everybody.
All for, as we find out later, a little bit of money.
And here's a very sad scene, but it's actually played for laughs, and it succeeds in kind of being that black comedy type of thing. I mean, you just feel so bad for her.
Yeah,
she's in this situation.
No idea
she's
what
crying.
she's doing.
She's trying to get away. But seeing her just try to walk and fall, it's pretty funny.
And then you see the reactions of these two. One is laughing like a maniac, and the other one doesn't even seem to have a reaction.
Cool, Nightcrawlers.
That's not Jake Gyllenhaal.
Not the Hauptmans are entering.
This is John.
I understood that reference.
John Carroll Lynch here, the actor. Very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Oafish,
but like wholesome character, in this movie.
Yeah,
so always,
a wholesome oaf.
Yeah, he's like taking care of his wife, bringing her food, jump starting her car, visiting her at work. If you ever seen the movie Zodiac, he's in that movie, and he is very unsettling.
Dude has range.
Actually, speaking of this kind of coincidence, John Carroll Lynch also is a director, and he directed a movie called Lucky, which is one of Harry Dean Stanton's last movies. And it was like a really small indie movie. And David Lynch played a supporting role in that movie.
Oh, look at that.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
I want you to tell me what this fellows look like.
This whole
Well,
scene
the little
is
guy, he was kind
great.
of funny looking. In what way?
one of my favorite scenes in this entire movie. Just this whole exchange
More
here.
specific?
I should count how many times Yaz said in this, just in this 2-3 minute exchange. And then Francis's face.
Look like the Marlboro Man.
Oh, yeah.
That is a reference few people are gonna get.
Hey, they said
We are the last generation that's gonna get
That probably know who that guy is, yeah.
Those are very nice, lovely prostitutes.
How about that? Stuck in the middle of nowhere, no TV. Not even the concept of cell phones. Just not having a TV would probably drive somebody insane at that point. Okay, that's creepy.
Are those potato chips in the middle? Oh, this side story is another side story I forgot about when I started watching it again.
Well, and it's funny. This is the one that a lot of people like to say it's pointless, but it's not. Which I'm sure you probably know why it's not pointless, but let's let it play out first. Yeah. There's actually a Reddit question somewhere. Like if you search, somebody actually asked, "What is the point of Mike Yanagita?" Doesn't add anything to the story. Like, oh, it doesn't? Well, how about this? And then, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Again, here's a Minnesota Nice. The being overtly polite on this, someone waking you up in the middle of the night with a phone call instead of just being like, "Why are you calling me? Like, go away."
Who is this?
Those 90s cars.
And I can give it to you with a heck of a ceiling.
Well, it's technically 87, so those late
That's true.
80s cars.
That's true, those 80s cars.
Again with the true coat.
What the heck do you mean?
Blood has been shed. Oh, jeez. See, another reason that he's an idiot and just greedy, because he's supposedly trying to get $1 million. What is another 40,000 out of that? And he's trying to fight him on it.
Right, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the original dumb plan was they were just going to ask for 80, and they were going to split the 80 down the middle between Jerry and then the two other guys.
Those are in the mail.
But he told Wade $1 million for the ransom.
Right.
So I guess he assumed he could just give him the two guys the 40,000, keep the rest for himself. But now Carl wants the whole 80,000, so which means no quote unquote cut for Jerry.
Yeah,
but
does
he know he asked for $1 million. Oh, he ain't so Minnesota nice now.
I don't know what that is. Some sort of chicken fricassee. Ooh. Everything on her plate is brown.
Oh, yeah? Twin Cities.
Minneapolis is a nice town. This is the shot. If you look in the background, no snow.
Ah.
This is all fake snow. And they could only do this shot once because this is all the fake snow they had. So they had to do it right on the first time. It's a beautiful shot though, look at it.
It is. Not my favorite of the movie. My favorite's still to come, but I'll point it out when we get there.
Is that even a spot?
No, it's not.
I was just gonna say, why did you not do this like way earlier? Change the plates on it. All right, sorry, what were you saying?
All late, and then, no. Well, let me get through this scene first because this scene is great. He still has to pay the $4, even though I don't feel like parking here anymore.
What do you mean?
Which already is suspicious in and of itself. But like, how normal does that sound? Oh, I came in, but now I don't want to park here no more.
Again, greed and stupidity. His greed is making him stupid. It's $4, dude. And this is to cover your tracks for potentially making 80,000. Let the $4 go. You know?
Exactly.
Right. So you said you wanted to get to something.
I had a question for you, because I don't know if you're aware, but yesterday on Wrestling Observer Live, our friend Brian Alvarez went on a whole 10-minute rant about people who back into parking spots. And I wanted to know if you're that type of person. Do you back into a parking space, or do you actually pull forward into a parking space?
I pull forward. I don't think I've ever backed into a parking space. I might have. I've pulled through, like started in one and then pulled through the next, but I've never backed into one. I know the argument for backing in because, supposedly if you get you can pull out. When you pull out, it's easier to see. I get that, but I don't know. Then it's more effort to back into the spot in the first place, though.
Either way, you're going to be either backing out or backing in. So it's going to be the same effort, but in the opposite direction. You know?
Yeah.
So it's rather pointless in a way. But he was going on a whole thing about how people shouldn't be backing into parking spaces because it just wastes time if you don't know how to do it right. Which, I mean, some people don't know how to do it right and they insist on doing it because they think it's easier. On a wrestling show, he went on like 10 minutes about parking
Could I take just
and driving. So I just thought it was fun.
What is
And how to act guilty 101 here.
There's a reason why, and later on in the movie, she comes back to
Specifically a
talk to him.
tan color.
Yeah.
Because if it was just off of this, she's like, oh.
I feel like she always
I don't
has
worry
like an
about it.
inkling that something's going on,
Mr. Lundegaard.
but she, I don't know if she like ever pursues it until later on, whenever he's like clearly
Omaha bunion, baby
involved.
blue wax.
Oh, this scene is so cringe.
Oh, you look great.
Yeah, so do you. Oh, easy there, easy there, easy there.
Ugh.
And the fact that she even agreed to see him just shows how nice she is.
Yeah.
Just again, just just her character overall.
You know it's a Radisson, so it's pretty good.
The Radisson.
The Radisson.
I was
Oh,
No,
dude,
why
it's
don't
so
you sit over
creepy.
there?
But I love how when she told him to sit over there, she didn't really change her attitude. She just said it very nicely. No, go sit over there. And then she's just back to being her normal nice self.
Well, I always liked you.
liked you so much.
Oh dear.
You were such a super lady. I've been so lonely.
You're such a super lady. Jose Feliciano.
Feliz Navidad.
I forgot this was part of the movie.
Find that work interesting to you? What are you talking
Oh my goodness. Find that work interesting, do you?
You have to blur this on YouTube.
No, man.
Oh, I forgot all about this part. I mean, he deserves it. And of course, he doesn't want him to Wade to go because Wade doesn't know to take out most of that money and only give him 80,000. The stupidest plan. Just so frustratingly dumb. Another great shot right here. Oh!
That's now what, our fourth victim?
Yep. Wait, is that right? The two people, the cop, the two people in the, yeah, 4.
And now Wade. Yeah. And I want to be keeping track because in the end, all these people, it's all Jerry's fault. So I want to actually know how many
Yep.
people are on his head over a stupid plan.
Do you take Wade's body?
I believe he did.
Oh,
That's why he
so
popped-
5. Here's 5.
Here's 5. Number 5. Poor guy. All he wanted was the ticket. I don't know who this guy is or who this actor, but
Oh yeah, this scene. I remember
impeccable
this.
delivery.
Yeah.
Impeccable delivery here. Just listen, everybody.
So I'm tending bar down there at Eklund and Swedlin's last Tuesday, and this little guy's drinking, and he says, so where can a guy find some action? I'm going crazy out there at the lake. And I says, what kind of action? And he says, woman action. What do I look like? And I says, well, what do I look like? I don't arrange that kind of thing. And then he says, geez, I'm going crazy out there at the lake.
White Bear Lake?
Yeah, well, at Eklund and Swedlin, that's closer to Moose Lake. So
That was a good scene. I like that scene.
It's a nice wholesome scene of a guy reporting something suspicious, but it couldn't be done any more wholesome than that. Let's take a look at Carl here in the car, realizing that there's a hell of a lot more than $80,000 in this briefcase. When does bearing money ever work out for the person bearing it?
When does finding a whole bunch of money they didn't expect to find ever work out in a Coen Brothers movie?
There's your money shot right there.
That's a great shot.
I love this shot so much. Really emphasizing the isolation here. When he could have done this as a close-up, but the wide shot here just works perfect. Now you're all about to find out why the Mike Yanagita scene is important. Take a listen, everybody.
Linda Cooksey. No, they were. He was bothering Linda for about over a good year. Really pestering her. Wouldn't leave her alone.
So Mike is a liar, everybody. So I'm sure right here she's thinking, you know what? If I got fooled by Mike Yanagita, I'm sure maybe this Jerry Lundegaard is worth a second look. Maybe I missed something.
Like I told you, we haven't had any vehicles go missing.
Okay. Are you sure? Because, I mean, how do you know? Because the crime...
I love how she says, are you sure? She makes that face.
Car with dealer plates, and they called someone who works here, so it'd be quite a coincidence if they weren't, connected.
And there's no... We're doing...
He's so bad at this. He's so bad at this. And she knows he's so bad at this.
Even when he's storming off, he's got to throw in the darn tootin'.
For Pete's sake, he's fleeing the interview. He's fleeing the interview.
Who's she talking to?
Wait, isn't that Bruce Campbell?
Is it?
Not.
It might be.
Isn't that Bruce Campbell? I'm about to look that up, dude.
It might be, because they do have the Coens have an association with Sam Raimi, who has an association with Campbell. So, and Campbell was in Hudsucker Proxy.
Bruce Campbell uncredited as soap opera actor on TV. I never noticed that. I never paid attention to the TV.
Yeah, I didn't either.
There you go. Uncredited cameo by Bruce Campbell
Okay,
as a soap opera actor.
This right here, another reason they're stupid. Okay, first of all, awful that he killed the wife. He killed Jean. This is stupid of his. He has $1 million. He has $1 million hidden. He could get away with this. He has $1 million. He could just let him have the stupid Sierra.
He knows where it is. Yep.
He could let him have the stupid Sierra, drive separately to get with another car, and the other guy wouldn't have to know anything. But he's fighting him on this stupid car. And I love the little detail that before he went out to murder him, he put on a hat and gloves. And then, by the way, if he would have just given up the car, she wouldn't have seen the car there. I remember this, what we're about to see, was so, I don't know, it really unnerved me. Like, even though I watch horror movies with lots of gore and stuff, for whatever reason, what we're about to see, really unsettled me.
Yeah, this is one of those, I'll call it iconic. This is an iconic scene here, and I'll say film history, because a lot of times when people think Fargo, they think the wood chipper scene. Even though they don't really show that much, but it's still very unsettling. Kind of like when I was growing up and people talking about the Scarface chainsaw scene, that it's all this horrible, horrific scene, and they don't really even show that much.
I mean, you do see a lot of blood here, though. Like, I love the look on her face where she's not quite sure what she's seeing, and then she gets a little closer. And the fact that she's pregnant and it's like slippery, it's like a very tense moment here. Ugh.
Here's the climax of this guy's psychotic tendency. You a guy in a wood chipper. Almost like he's done this before.
I love the point to the badge.
I feel like this scene right here got Francis the Oscar. This scene we're about to watch right now. Just terrific delivery. So in total, that's 7 people dead.
Yep.
I don't think they know about Wade yet.
That's true, they don't.
That's why she only mentioned Mrs. Gunderson, the accomplice, Carl, and then the other people.
Here you are. And it's a beautiful day.
It's like disappointment, you know? She's just disappointed that someone could be like this.
And she could be using much harsher language. She comes across like, that mom or that grandma that's just so disappointed. But when they're disappointed, it's like a knife to your heart. Another great shot here. Not to use the old cliche, but this just proves you can run, but you can't hide. Forever.
Idiot.
Yeah, he's got 7 dead people on his conscience now. All because of a stupid plan. Now, as we're approaching the end of the movie here, one thing I did want to address, and I did see this on Reddit. I don't remember if this was actually like an actual post or if it was buried in the comments somewhere. But one of the themes of this movie that somebody picked up on was the theme of loneliness. And, I mean, we saw it with Mike Yanagi. That's probably the most blatant example. But, like, you have, Jerry, who, even though he has his family, he's still very isolated. Like, the whole point of him coming up with this stupid plan is that he can't go to his wife. He can't go to his father-in-law for this money that he desperately needs. So he has to come up with this stupid plan that ends up killing a bunch of people. Right?
Yep.
And you have the 2 guys, like, like Steve Buscemi's character, Carl. Like, he's like the loudmouth, but he thinks like he's this person that he's really not. He's this kind of big shot. Because, he likes to talk like a big shot, but he's really like just this kind of, low-level guy. But it all comes from a place of isolation. Same thing with Peter Stormare's character. He's like this psychotic guy, but again, it's kind of like this whole isolation in his evil, And one of the things that I've noticed too is that a lot of these bad things kind of stem from a place of loneliness too. And I don't know if that's what they're directly trying to get at, but I just think it's an interesting, connection.
Yeah, definitely. I could certainly see that. I wanted to point out how the film ends here. Because as I said earlier, Roger Deakins, there we go. Your first introduction to Marge is, in bed with her husband, and then bookends at the end with her in bed with her husband again. And it kind of reflects what she was talking about in the car. Like, for her, this is her life. She's content to be with her husband in her home. She's pregnant. She's just nice and cozy. They're celebrating his duck painting, getting on a stamp or something like that. And to her, like, that's what life is. That's what makes things worth living for. It's not about money. And like, none of the people in this movie, Jerry or Carl or whoever, like, there's the Prince symbol. Do you see it? Anyway, and none of the people other than her can seem to like appreciate that, and they all end up like dead because of it, or in some sort of trouble, right? And that's what I kind of love about the movie, that she's kind of like the soul, like the conscience of the movie. You know what I mean?
I agree. And one other thing here about Margie and Norm is the fact that if you really think about it, they're really the only semblance of normal that we have in this movie. And normal is boring, but that's life. Like, when you have a stable relationship, a stable marriage like this, you're going to have boring moments, but that's just, the routine of life. That's just how life is. When you're that comfortable with somebody, you get into a routine, and that's just you guys living your lives, and that's normal. And I think they're the epitome of like what normal is, a normal married couple. And while it might be boring, but that's life, and that's the beauty of it.
And and you saw even with Gene, with Gene, his wife, like, they didn't paint her out to be like mean or nasty. Like, she seemed fairly content in her life. You know what I mean? Right. And he could have had that, but instead he got greedy and stupid. So any last thoughts on what we just saw here with Fargo?
This is definitely a favorite movie of mine. I don't know. I don't really have a list of my top favorites in any order, but this is definitely in the group of favorite movies. I remember when I first watched it, I was just very much entranced by it. I loved it. I think I revisited it in college. I think this might have been covered in one of my college courses, this movie, but I don't remember exactly. But I know I did rewatch it again during my college years, and it still held up then. It still holds up now. And it's not that long. Like, you see all these movies now that are like 2.5 hours. This is barely like a little past the 90-minute mark. This movie.
I was about to say, this movie is in and out.
They didn't miss a beat. You got your beginning, your middle, and your end, and everything made sense. And it was great. Terrific performances here. But William H. Macy, Frances McDormand, who won the Oscar for this. Roger Deakins, beautiful cinematography. The score by Carter Burwell also needs to be addressed because it's very good, very haunting score at times. And just an overall excellent outing from the company.
Yeah, I would agree. And audiences and critics and awards awards committees agreed, because it was a pretty moderate hit. It was only made for $7 million, and on that $7 million, it made $60 million, which in today's money is about $13 million budget, bringing back about $112, I think, $million. So a pretty good hit for the Coen Brothers there. Awards contender, critics all loved it, obviously. For awards, Academy Awards, it was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Actress, Supporting Actor for William H. Macy, Screenplay, Cinematography, and Editing. It did win Actress for Frances McDormand, and the Coens won Best Screenplay. Interestingly enough, the Coens also... So Ethan Coen was nominated for Best Picture as the producer. Joel was nominated for director. They were both nominated and one for screenwriting. What's funny, though, there's another one that they're nominated for, and that's Best Film Editing. But under Film Editing, it says Roderick Janes. Roderick Janes is a made-up name. They both edited the film, but they didn't want to give themselves another credit on screen, so they just gave it to like a fake person.
Right.
Which is interesting that it's funny that they didn't win, because it would have been funnier if they actually won. What would they have done to accept the award? It was included on a couple of the AFI movies lists, including the 100 movies. It came in at number 84. Speaking to the fact that we were talking about how it is a black comedy, it also made it their 100 comedies at number 93. And in their heroes and villains, Marge Gunderson came in at number 33 for the best hero. So There we go with that. So yeah, it has a pretty strong legacy. A lot of people still like it years later. And as we talked about, it did inspire a TV show, a TV series, which I have not seen any of, to be honest. I haven't seen any of the TV show.
Well, I do want to point out one thing about the show. I did read that in season 1, they do address the kind of hanging thread here of the buried money.
Okay.
I guess somebody finds it at some point during that season, and there's like a whole arc about it. So if you're interested in following up about that money, it is addressed in season 1, from what I've read.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I don't know anything else about it other than that. I know it gets lots of good reviews and everything. It's one of those things that like there are so many shows that people tell me I have to watch. Like now. I don't. Yeah. One thing I'm watching is Severance. I'm not sure if you watch Severance at all. Severance is really good. But everyone, I still haven't watched The Boys. I still haven't watched Better Call Saul. There's too many I got to catch up on. And Fargo probably is not going to make the top 10 right now as far as shows, Yeah, so that was Fargo. My thoughts again, I love it. I love the dark comedy of it. I also love the fact that it's like it has, a pretty simple message about enjoying the things in life, but also kind of like the Coen Brothers like to do, explore greed and the morality and immorality of that.
Right.
All right.
I'm going to add there, just a terrific film.
So, a couple announcements here before we go. For their next episode, I did talk a little bit about David Lynch at the beginning. So instead of doing our random generator or going to the polls or anything like that, I thought that for our next episode, what we could do, it wouldn't be a watch along. Instead, it would be kind of like what we did for Christmas Carol, where we talk about the films of David Lynch. Now, we don't have to watch, like, it might give us some homework to do, catch up on some ones we haven't seen yet. But I think it would be fun to just kind of spend like some time together talking about our memories of Lynch, the movies that we watched, the ones that like kind of got us into him or got, showed us who he was. And just kind of have a nice discussion on that.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be really fun to go back to watch some of them.
I know I've got some gaps to fill. For example, and I don't think it'll happen before we record our next episode, I have never watched the show Twin Peaks. Now,
neither have I.
I have seen pieces of it. Like I've seen like not whole episodes, but I've seen clips. I know enough about Twin Peaks just through like the pop culture osmosis. You know what I mean? But I have never actually sat down and watched the series. I don't think it's going to happen before this episode, but I'm going to try to at least watch some of them. The other major one I've never seen, I think, is Straight Story, which is like his most like PG rated, like anybody can watch this film. I have seen all the major ones though, like all the big ones that you would think of with David Lynch, like Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, Dune, Elephant Man, Eraserhead, Blue Velvet. I've seen all those. The only one that I've seen, but I need to do a rewatch, is Wild at Heart, because it's been a long time since I've seen Wild at Heart. I remember like fragments, and I don't remember the whole thing.
2 years ago was the last time, because I just bought the Shout Factory Blu-ray, and I put it on, and I remember it being. I remembered it from the first time watching it being less weird, but it's actually very weird. It's right on par. It's the typical Lynch film.
Yeah, I remember Nick Cage. I remember Laura Dern. I remember Ray Liotta, but I don't remember anything. Like I just remember the fragments of it, right? Like I remember the like someone that looks like Glinda the Good Witch coming down at one point. It's been so long since I've seen it.
Right?
What's that?
I think Willem Dafoe's in this too, right?
Is he? It's been so long, I can't remember.
It's him or somebody else.
So
I'm confusing him.
And I definitely squeeze in a rewatch of Wild at Heart, because that one is I can't remember it all. And I do have the Shout Factory one that you have. I've never watched it yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be our next episode. And I can't wait to get into it. And we'll talk about like the films that got us into Lynch, how we first experienced them, our favorites, things like that, favorite moments in his movies. So that'll be fun.
Can't wait.
So that'll about do it for us. Do you have any plugs you want to throw out there for the peeps?
Not particularly. If you want to follow me on social media right now, I'm really just on Instagram. I'm at sportsguy515. You just follow me right over there. I don't post much as far as like actual posts, but I'm constantly, if I go out, I'm posting a story. So if you're interested in stories, feel free to follow me there. Check that out. I am starting a new show. It's in the works with our good friend Brandon Draven. We are going into the exploitation film genre, so it's basically a grindhouse podcast. So we're still kind of coming up with the format a bit, but we're hoping to start our first episode maybe within the next month or so. We still haven't decided on the films yet, but I think we're getting close to a first episode. But it's going to be very exciting. You know me, Adolfo. I've been into the exploitation genre for quite some time, especially ever since Grindhouse in 2007, which didn't do well in the box office, but I was just mesmerized by that movie, and I've been kind of an exploitation junkie ever since. So
I love both those movies. I know people are sometimes down on those movies, but I love both Death Proof and Planet of Terror. I think they're both like fun as hell.
They've got their own. Each one has its own individual charm, and they're fun for different reasons.
Yeah.
But that'll be me and Draven starting. We haven't even thought of a name for the show yet. So once we get all that info out, we'll share it with everybody so you can follow us and listen. It's going to be a fun time.
Whatever you come up with, I mean, it's your show. I'm not going to tell you what to name it, but I will say whatever you come up with, it has to be trashy. It has to sound trashy.
Oh, I'm sure we'll think of something.
It has to sound trashy, like to fit the theme, you know?
Right.
All right. So that'll about do it for us. As far as plugs from my end, I don't know. I'm not doing social media with this site as much anymore, but you can do facebook.com, The Essential Films. Whatever you're watching this on YouTube, so subscribe to this channel on YouTube, and that's about it. I hate doing plugs, so that's all I have.
Gotcha.
So for Mark, just remember, folks, don't get the True Coat. It's a ripoff, and remember, always buy physical media.